WrestleDope back on YouTube here in 2011 as a brand new year of wrestling kicks off, and the road to WrestleMania is firmly underway. Of course, the Royal Rumble, that's going to be the first order of business for the WWE, and that coming up in just a few short weeks' time. Predictions for that upcoming pay-per-view, as well as the 30-man match to talk about. Also, 2 championship matches already announced for this upcoming show, and some promise in there. Now, The Miz with Alex Riley is going to take on Randy Orton, a singles match for the WWE Championship, and this is really going to be a proving ground for The Miz. Can he do it on one of those big 4 pay-per-views, the big stage, if you like, just before WrestleMania? Now, I wonder if this really is a test, if you like, from the office about whether or not this guy can actually go forward and do something big at WrestleMania. Can they repeat this match again? I suppose it's all going to be found out coming Royal Rumble night.
Yep, the road to WrestleMania begins, and has begun really, I suppose, but it needs to have some solid ground. It needs some good foundations, and it's about 50%, I suppose. I think going forward we'll know better, or we'll know if it's going to be strong or whatever. But I don't know who's going to close this WrestleMania this year. I mean, if Miz is the champion after the Rumble, do you think he's going to close it? Probably not, but that means Trips or Taker or somebody. Saw some rumored Taker matches that look nasty. Hopefully they don't go ahead. Things looking a bit shaky on his front. I think they want to slow him down a bit. Not so much have a good match, but just maintain that streak, which probably makes sense at the age he is and the shape he's in. But Miz and Orton, I'm not too pushed about this one. I think Miz will probably retain, but then again they might go for that blockbuster Orton Cena deal, but then again Orton's a babyface now, so
that's exactly it. Orton changed to babyface this year, and what a different take it's been on the character. I'm not so sure has it been successful. I do think the crowd really have put him over. They've been behind this change, and I think a lot of people look forward to it, but not as much as they look forward to that elusive Cena heel turn. Of course, now probably no chance of that whatsoever. Now, can The Miz take on Cena at WrestleMania? Because that's basically what maybe you're talking about here. If he goes through Randy Orton, of course there will be another pay-per-view to follow before the big show, so maybe that's how they could continue it. You could be looking at Miz versus Orton with a non-definitive finish at the Royal Rumble, considering that there will be so much action in the 30-man Royal Rumble, and as you said as well, the fact that can The Miz really close the Rumble. Now, I have said it here live in the past on Justin that basically I could see The Miz in the Sheamus position of last year when he took on Triple H at Royal Rumble from 2010, and he didn't have it at WrestleMania, so maybe this is the exact same thing happening here.
Yeah, maybe, but they seem to be behind The Miz, and I think it would be a little bit on the snore side if Orton is to take the belt and go into Mania with it up against anybody. I just think it's been a little bit exhausted at this stage. For Miz to go in with Cena, they have a good history, and it would be entertaining, especially if Miz pulls out that anti-Cena t-shirt once again, and he'll get some good stuff, I think, out of the whole thing. But I think the main thing for them is to build it fast, not to wait between the Rumble and Mania. It needs to happen fairly lively.
It does. They really haven't got a huge amount of story for this in terms of backstory. Now, if you were to lead this into a WrestleMania, well, I mean, I think about that feud that built up between Orton and Triple H, where you had that home invasion, and that was just a few years ago again, where there was a true backstory to a main event feud. Now, exactly what would Orton's problem be with The Miz? only for the fact that he has that belt and that he wants it back. I suppose the Money in the Bank issue is still, knocking around there, but also that question about whether Money in the Bank is going to be at WrestleMania. I don't know, after that pay-per-view win and the amount of times Miz has talked about it and eventually cashed in, I think people, maybe might be a bit bored of the gimmick, but not the match.
It could go pretty topsy-turvy as well, I think. If Orton was to take it from Miz and Orton somehow gets involved with Punk and Punk takes it from Orton and Punk and Cena go Mania with the belts. Now, I mean, it's a long-winded way to get around it, and obviously there's not going to be a lot of time to make it really solid, but it is a possibility, I think.
Yeah, there's several things they could do. I kind of really felt, in a way, this Orton-Miz thing, it's like a mid-card feud. Now, Orton kind of sort of had to be taken out of sort of world championship pictures for a few months, and he's made it back in there, but just with the Miz. And of course the Miz really only had a dirty title win, if you like, with the Money in the Bank, so it kind of cheapens the whole thing a bit for me. As to whether they can perform in the ring, I still think the jury is out on the Miz wrestling skills. He does a lot where he's kind of protected, and the other guy is kind of shining, whereas he's not doing too much. Now, of course, he's big on the wrestling holds and things like that, and he can sort of make them believable. But I did laugh when I saw the other day that he's still doing that high spot where he sort of jumps onto the turnbuckle and hangs there.
Yeah.
And that's still there after all this time.
That is one of his kind of trademark ones, I suppose. Yeah, I agree. Although he's stepped it up a little bit. The match with John Morrison was pretty good. But a little bit of a one-trick pony in the ring, I think.
Yeah, I think the Miz is, I would say, as I said before, non-definitive here. I think it's going to be disqualification. I can't see either guy going over because they have to get to this next pay-per-view, which I believe is Elimination Chamber, and then WrestleMania afterwards. I don't think Miz is going to go to WrestleMania as champ. Stand to be corrected on that, but like I say, I'm going to go with non-definitive here, maybe disqualification.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see who Orton ends up with for Mania, no matter what happens, isn't it?
Yeah. I hope he doesn't get that Batista-Umaga slot.
Well, someone has to take it, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know.
I would say
it'll be interesting going forward.
Would you pick anyone over the other for coming out on top?
I would say I kind of hope it's not Orton. Not that I'm marking out for the Miz, but I just prefer, that's the word I'd use, I prefer to see Miz come out with the strap. And I'd actually like to see him go into Mania with the strap as well. Just be a little bit fresh as opposed to Orton or Trips or Cena, the usual suspects. Just give a nice little spin on it, because sometimes I think when you look back, even at recent Manias, if you go back 24, 23, you can just look at those headline matches and go, oh, Cena and thing, Orton and thing, Triple H, and it's just the same fucking shit. So for Miz, I suppose as a champion to be with anyone would be a little bit of a breath of fresh air, I suppose.
Well, you mentioned those repetitive combinations of guys, and to me it damages the DVDs to actually want to go back through those when you see that each main event is successfully the same thing. I know a main event has to last for a while, a program has to go, but it was repetitive for a while, and new faces in there, always a good thing. And indeed Dolph Ziggler, probably the guy now getting the push on SmackDown for a little bit until they get a bit bored, but they have to put someone against Edge. And was it going to be dashing Cody Rhodes? Probably not yet, at least, but I think he's getting there. It wasn't going to be Rey Mysterio,
thank God.
Permanently babyface, of course. So that's what's going to happen. I'm going to call this the Battle of the Guerrero Marks. They're all fans of Vicky, and that seems to be the whole backstory to this.
Yeah, for Ziggler, it would be a bit soon. Stranger things have happened. Would be a bit soon, though. I can see Edge retaining at the Rumble with this one. Unless, Vicky does some crazy interference and there's some swerve, but I'd say Edge with this one.
Actually, I would sort of say the exact same thing in a way. I was looking at the interference and I thought maybe that's the Miz Orton outcome, so maybe this one's just going to be a clean Edge defeating Dolph Ziggler. I mean, surely they couldn't let Dolph do anything offensive here. I mean, Dolph's still considered to be a mid-card guy. Edge supposed to be the World Heavyweight Champion now and top of the SmackDown pile, so he really is just fodder for Edge for these next few weeks, and probably they thought about ideas here and they realised that both of them had a Vicky Guerrero relationship in the past, and I suppose they decided, look, video library versus video library.
It's true. Although Dolph has been misbehaving.
Indeed. Caitlin's still around the place, is she?
Well, I think that was old footage, but fuck knows, he was being a naughty boy anyway.
So that one's going to be a World Heavyweight Championship match, and like yourself, I would say Edge is going to be retaining here. Too early for anything to happen, but then maybe Jacob Novak might get involved somehow, some way, and perhaps then they could transition on to the third Vicky Guerrero. Has he been released though? I hope not, because I saw a small bit of promise there in that.
He does have a little bit of hope. A little bit. They kind of nicked the Kendrick kind of jacket deal, though, didn't they? A little bit.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so if it didn't do much for Kendrick, well, I suppose the Office probably weren't too behind him at the time.
A
His
shame.
ways.
A crying shame.
But who knows? There's a lot of kind of guys just filtering in and out from this NXT, and they're trying to find spots for. And I had to laugh, not to go too off topic, but the winner and their pro gets the tag team title shot. I mean,
wow, they must be really looking forward to that.
I looked at all combinations of pros and rookies there, and I was like, look, this is that's a waste. That's a waste.
It is. It's a waste of time to even watch NXT. I suppose we could talk about that in a bit here on WrestleDope on YouTube. Extra long videos now, so all the topics in just one file. We want to hear from you as well. If you'd like to join us here live on justin.tv/WrestleDope, you can do that every Sunday at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific and 9 GMT. And we'd like you to Skype as well. The username is WrestleDope. And now to talk about more Royal Rumble predictions. The 30-man Royal Rumble match. The winner receives an opportunity to main event WrestleMania. Now, we've talked about possibilities of guys who maybe could come out on top at the end of this match. Guys like Alberto Del Rio mentioned, who I really think is being pushed too far in that direction now to actually win.
I agree, yeah. He's been kind of shoved down our throats, but he is funny. He is funny. I actually loved his Raw stuff with Shawn Michaels. I think we saw a completely different side to him that they should focus on more. We'll probably get to that when we talk about it, or will we cover it now?
Absolutely, it was a great moment for Alberto, and I suppose weighing up his Rumble possibilities, this is a good sign that he could win. They are pushing him. Yeah,
I think I wouldn't really mind so much if he won. For the last couple of weeks, I was a little bit against it, but after this week, and especially after Raw, I kind of saw different sides to the whole thing, and I wouldn't be too pushed if I wouldn't mind too much. Sorry, if he won, but as far as Rey Mysterio and Big Show, nah, I just wouldn't be too down with that.
That's it. Many familiar faces in this Rumble. Still, with all these new guys, you're going to see the Mysterios, the Big Shows, and a lot of other guys maybe taken up in matches. Edge, Orton, they're the other two veterans, if you like, that are off doing other things. Who else, though, could be a possible Royal Rumble winner? And you've gone through 2 or 3 there that I have to say all have a legitimate chance. Guys like Kofi Kingston. Well, could Kofi Kingston win? Maybe he might be doing intercontinental stuff.
Hopefully.
Possibly. He'd be wasted, I think, in the Rumble when you could do a good IC title match, and maybe, who's he feuding with now? It was Drew for a while, but
There was some match on SmackDown. I can't remember.
There
what
was
it
a match, and yeah, you know, I couldn't tell you what it is either. But yeah, you know, I certainly think all signs are pointing to Alberto Del Rio. They're bringing him into everything possible. And like I say, maybe they're just making it too obvious now, where he will probably be in there till the very end, but possibly someone like Mysterio will maybe go over.
Yeah, I really hope not. I do agree what you say that we're getting a lot of Del Rio, but it does make sense because all that exposure, I'm sure, for the highlight reels going into Mania and his run, I suppose, since he debuted. There's a lot of stuff there now, especially he's been on Raw, SmackDown. He's everywhere. So unless they're, you know, fucking with their heads, Del Rio would be a good choice if I had to put money down. But then, you know, some big returns, you know, trips, Taker, possibly some more, who knows.
Certainly those returns would be an excellent surprise, because the Triple H thing has gone on for so long and people are just wondering when he'll actually be back in ring work and when will he be doing stuff again. The Rumble, a perfect opportunity for anyone like that to come back. But I was going to throw a name that really maybe wouldn't be expected, but is it possible that Daniel Bryan could win the Rumble? Now, what could he go on and challenge? Maybe next year could be him versus Miz. That could be the thing. Maybe Miz is going to come out on top at WrestleMania.
Yeah, there are a few that, like, might necessarily... Well, I don't know if Drew McIntyre, he was jobbing to Trent Beretta this week on SmackDown, so maybe not true. But there's a good lot that you could potentially say, maybe not. I don't think it'll be the likes of the new Nexus Slaters or Gabriels or any of those jabronis. Goldust, forget about it. Kofi, you'll probably have an IC match. Daniel Bryan. Someone will probably, you know, impress as they always do every year.
And I'm also looking for those legends to appear. Now, it's always a disappointment to me when you don't get Honky Tonk Man or someone like that who you actually look forward to seeing. Now, you know, guys like Haku did it in the past, and they always like to do that. But it's a poor year when nothing like that happens, when there aren't any, even just small surprises, when they have, you know, 30 guys that they can put in. Things can happen, and you know, we had CM Punk last year with his promo cutting and getting rid of guys as they came in. That was interesting and unique, and I hope for something again like that. Maybe Punk can do it again.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. Wade Barrett would be another one to watch, I think. I wouldn't rule him out just yet.
Of course. Now, Wade Barrett, totally forgot about him. He's got a massively legitimate chance, but you know, World Heavyweight Championship, him versus Edge, that's perfectly doable. If he doesn't do the Wade Barrett Undertaker at WrestleMania, then Wade Barrett Edge would be perfect for him. Plenty of time to build that one too.
Yeah. Jeez, I wouldn't want it to close WrestleMania though. It'd be pretty horrendous, wouldn't it? I think either way it'll probably be Cena and somebody, or Taker and somebody to close it. But yeah, it's kind of that time of year where it's tough to place anything. It could go either way, but between last week and this week we've covered quite a lot of options, I think. And looking at it all, I think Del Rio is probably going to be Del Rio, but I'm not going to say it is, but I think he would be a good safe bet.
Looking at the chat room live here on justin.tv, Dave in Birmingham, I would say Christian versus Edge at WrestleMania, Del Rio winning Money in the Bank, Wade versus The Undertaker, Sheamus versus Triple H, and maybe King Jerry versus Cole. Jerry's first WrestleMania match. It could happen now.
That'd be pretty funny, yeah.
Of course, Jerry Lawler has been mentioned as a possible guy legitimately that could be performing. That, you know, maybe it's just rumour and work from the Lawler side of things, but with all the push on Raw, I could say it could genuinely happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't be such a bad thing. Second match in or something, or maybe after a Divas match.
And Crazy Juice, they put the belt on Miz because he isn't great at wrestling, makes the perfect heel. And that's a true thing to say, and it's often forgotten.
Yeah.
He can do it. Sonic
funny.
Akuma, Ray should pull off the Rumble. I see him on the main event of WrestleMania 27. And Dave, maybe a three-way at WrestleMania, The Miz, Cena and CM Punk. Just going back through some of your messages here. And indeed, if you're on YouTube, you can comment in the box below. These people are in the live chat room, and you can join us here every Sunday. Dave Birmingham, I'm going for Cena to win the Rumble, and that will set up The Miz versus Cena at WrestleMania, and so how CM Punk will be in this match as a three-way. And Sonic Akuma thinks Steamboat could be in the Rumble. I'd like it to happen.
Yeah, although he had a bit of a scare recently enough, didn't he?
He did. I'd say he's probably still not great. From I think tweets from Richie Steamboat a couple of months back, it wasn't the best situations, but I don't think he was going to be wrestling again. Of course, Elimination Chamber and our early thoughts on that. We've just talked about what Royal Rumble could be and what the various outcomes of those matches could be, as well as the winner. Now, we were kind of saying The Miz and Orton, that one could be, well, in my book, a disqualification. So if that is the case, then perhaps Elimination Chamber is going to feature that match once again. Of course, they are going to have to do a SmackDown and a Raw Elimination Chamber, but they will have to do a World Championship match as well. So I'd expect Orton and The Miz to be in that one. As for the competitors for this other gimmick spot, if you like, they're going to have to fill two of them.
Well, again, look, a lot of returns possibly. Chris Jericho's another one that we haven't spoke about this week. So if he comes back, Jericho and Miz would be good for Mania. That'd be pretty good. But again, they're both, I suppose, heel, so maybe not. But yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting for the returns. I'm kind of on the board side of things.
Yeah, actually I thought about it the other day, and when you think about who we're missing now, we're missing Michaels, we're missing Triple H, we're more or less missing Undertaker. He could be gone, he'll be back and forth, but he's not a permanent guy anymore. There's a lot of core guys now that are not on TV. These would have been the draw in the very first place, and it is a dodgy situation. Now, I will say they've done well to keep this thing going and to still have new stuff they've never done before, like Cole, for example. His character has never been anything but the straight man commentator. Now he's a lot more than that, and it proves to me that there are things still to be done, but like you say, those returns, they're going to have to fill up a lot of spots in the Elimination Chamber. Now, my thought on the SmackDown thing after seeing the program this past week was that kind of mid-card match that had R-Truth, Del Rio, Cody Rhodes and Ray, that maybe they are about 4 of those guys for the SmackDown one.
Yeah, they're definitely the higher end of the SmackDown brand. I think Dolph should be back up, and that makes a little bit, I don't know if he's still getting that put down from the office because of his misses or whatever, but Jesus, Trent Beretta is saying a lot. It really is, especially coming from being the chosen one. But yeah, definitely Kofi, definitely Ray, probably Big Show, maybe.
Yeah.
R-Truth, we could probably do without. But yeah, I think those ones definitely for.
I think it's certainly, felt like they were even pushing this R-Truth Del Rio thing to WrestleMania when I think Truth mentioned something about that, and it kind of did make me think they were trying to at least tease the fact that that was going to be the match. I hope not, but Elimination Chamber, it's exactly the kind of thing I think they would do. And you just mentioned Big Show and Edge. It's got to be one or the other of those guys. Maybe Wade Barrett in the SmackDown Elimination Chamber, perhaps in place of Cody Rhodes.
He probably would be. Although, well, no, you're probably right there. Yeah, Cody's gonna probably take a couple more months to get up to that kind of deal, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's getting there, but maybe this time next year, I'd say.
He definitely is getting there.
Healthy.
He's doing so much more in ring, and he's actually keeping me interested. Should be noted that the poster of this upcoming pay-per-view has Edge climbing the Elimination Chamber. Now, of course, that's not always the way forward. They sometimes kind of swerve you on those posters, but maybe he will be in that SmackDown one. Perhaps it is a given. But then it's for a shot at his title.
Yeah,
So
that
will he lose
does make sense. Yeah, again with the swerves, we've seen it many times before.
it? Do you think you'd be surprised if Dolph Ziggler won the World Heavyweight Championship at Royal Rumble? At this point,
I would, but not. I'd be happy for him, but I think I wouldn't be too surprised, because if you look in recent times, people are kind of rising up that ladder pretty quick. Punk, Sheamus, even Miz. I know he's kind of been around a little bit, but to get the WWE Championship at the kind of level he was at, I mean, he was kind of in that US title mid-card deal for quite some time, and even the tag run with Morrison. But for Ziggler, I would. I think it'll be a bit soon for Ziggler, I have to say. A little bit soon.
it would be. And if they do choose to do that, it will be another one of those shocks. But do you want to do something like that so early? You can hold off. But when I think about it, I do think that it's certainly a case that they're putting him in that match. So they are sort of trying to envision him in the future at some point with the World Heavyweight Championship, and that's where we are now, isn't it?
I just think really with Ziggler, they're stuck. They're stuck for talent to put it in there. I'm sure the office are looking at going, right, who have we got? Kofi? No, Jesus. Ray, it's been done to death.
They are stuck. Yeah.
Who else have we got? What other heel can we put in now that Edge's face? And, you know, as you said, Cody would be a bit too soon. He would be a good enough choice, but I think Ziggler's kind of had a good run with that IC title, and has some good matches. I kind of like him, actually. I think he's okay.
Yeah, actually, recently, just searching around forums and various chat rooms, I've seen a lot of talk about Kofi in the sense that he maybe was held back a bit when he had a little bit of a push, that it led back to Intercontinental, and why exactly was that. But it's funny how these guys can get that burst of a push, and then just everything goes cool. They decide, look, we haven't got anything else to do, and you just wonder how it all works and what the decision-making process is. I think that's exactly why we talk about this so much. It's how it all comes together.
Yeah, I agree. I think some guys are kind of like main event caliber guys. Kofi Kingston for me isn't one of those guys. He'll always be the kind of mid-card deal. I think Ziggler has potential to be, you know, a headline guy. Now, in saying that, there's been guys going back, you know, 5-10 years where he said they'll never be a main eventer, and look, they have become main eventers. Off the top of my head, I can't name one, but there are a few.
No, there certainly is, and I know that even guys that you expect to go all the way, that just don't, and then you see the other guy doing it. The Morrison Miz thing and the comparisons with Jannetty and HBK, it's a timeless thing now. I mean, they're going to be talking in 10 years about who was the Morrison and who was the Miz. I'm still surprised about that, but you mentioned the Morrison Miz on Raw and what they've been doing. It's outstanding.
Well, Morrison's another one who could potentially take the Rumble and go Morrison Miz for the title of Mania, which, you know, there's a lot of history there. So that might be a good way for them to go.
Could still happen. Could still happen. And what a way it would be to really say, this is our future, this is the way we're going to go now. Two guys who are very much over. Now, Raw Elimination Chamber, that's a little bit more complicated. There are, in fact, maybe... there is maybe a bigger choice of guys for a match like that. If we take Orton or The Miz out of it, I could certainly see maybe, let's say I go for Miz in it, Morrison,
Sheamus.
say you could put Sheamus in there. Who else would I go for on that? Is Truth Raw now?
Truth is SmackDown, isn't he? But
He's another tweener.
yeah, he just kind of drifts in around. I think he's kind of SmackDown though.
Yeah, so he could be on either one. Who else? Daniel Bryan.
He's going to stay down in the kind of mid, I think, for a little bit.
See, I hope these matches don't become mid-card ground. I wouldn't like that to happen. I mean, these were the matches that were usually saved for the heavyweight guys. You look back in the 2000s and you see Elimination Chambers with Jericho, Triple H, Michaels. And, you know, you don't want this to be the ground for all those guys to learn how to work pay-per-views.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it with Raw. There's no one else really, I don't think, I could see. No. That's about it really, isn't it?
It's still a while to go, but Elimination Chamber will be the next pay-per-view after Royal Rumble, and then we will follow on to WrestleMania.